Okay, we're going to take a look at the paint job estimator program, and I'm going to walk you through basically what you were looking for. And there actually were several ways you could set this up. I'm going to show you the way that the book actually did this, and most of you worked in a very similar manner as far as what you provided. Now, the first thing that I asked was for you to put in or declare the class level constants. Um, some of you put all of these in, some had several. Again, if you look at all the different variables that they gave numbers for listed in the project, they're all listed here as constants, okay? So again, if you had part of those listed, then you got all the credit or a good portion of the credit. Okay. Next part, declare the necessary variables to solve the solution. Okay. Again, worth 10 points. You can see that some of the different items that they had were to hold the number of rooms, to hold the price of a gallon of paint, uh, to hold the square footage for the rooms that were going to be painted, to hold the number of gallons of paint required, to hold the number of hours of labor, to hold the labor charges, to hold the cost of the paint, and to hold the total cost of the paint job. So again, those were items that you should have declared as far as variables that you were going to use in the program. And again, you'll notice these are all declared at the top of the form. So the scope, the level of access that you have throughout the project then means that any of the variables in this particular form can use any of these constants or any of these variables, okay? Because they're not created inside of any of the click events. All right, so again, when you look at this, they're all declared right at the top. All right. Now, the next part asks you to validate the input information. Again, that was worth 10 points. So the two main areas that you had to check, all right, were the text box for the number of rooms and the price of paint. So you can see there's our tri-parse, all right, and so we were checking those two items. And then whenever you come down here, of course, you have the part that is telling you that you have to have the appropriate type of variable for gallons or for the room. Okay, so that was the next part of the project. Now, I put in a segment there that says call the functions to perform the calculations for the solution. That was worth 20 points. So after you've checked for your information, the thing that you should be doing is getting all of your information together to do the calculations. So if you'll notice, we have calls to go to different types of functions to get pieces of information. So the first one was it calls int square footage is our variable, okay, and we use get square footage. So if we look at that, it calls this particular function. So then that means it's going to jump down here to the functions, get square footage, okay, and what it's going to do, it's going to do a loop and a message box to, or input box to get those particular pieces of information. So it's going to say that they want you to enter the square footage for each of the rooms. So if you put, as an example, a number 2 in there, this is going to run through twice, and it's going to ask you for the square footage of each of those rooms, okay? And each time it comes through, it's going to accumulate that. So as an example, I think one of the variables was equal to 115. So if I say I have 2 rooms and each room has 230 square feet, or a total of 460, then that's going to pass that information back up here to the square footage for the portion of our calculation. The next one, int gallons, it's going to again come down to the int gallons, or to the gallons required, excuse me. And so what it's going to do is it's going to return, it's going to take the square footage. So if I use my 460 and I divide that by the square footage per gallon, which was 115, that's going to give me 4 times whatever the gallons of paint was, cost of the gallons of paint. So that's going to calculate those particular number of gallons that we're going to use. So again, that's going to post our information back up here to the number of gallons of paint required. Labor, again, we have our function to go down and calculate labor. So we look at, let's see, our calc paint cost. Again, we're passing our information in. We're going to take the price of the paint times the gallons, or actually, excuse me, I'm in the wrong place there. Calculate the hours required. So we're going to take the square footage by the coverage times the labor hours. Okay. The function below that is calculate paint cost. So we're going to take the paint cost times the gallons that we calculated from up above, and it's going to give us our total cost for paint. Our labor charges, of course, we're going to take our labor that we've calculated, multiply that out, and then we're going to do a total cost and add the information together. All right. So basically, whenever we're calling, all we're doing is we're passing the information that we need to those particular functions down below, and then they're going to do those calculations and set the values for each one of these variables that we've defined. Okay, once we have all of our calculations, then we can simply go in and post our information to the labels to display those particular pieces of information. So we've calculated the gallons, the hours, the labor charges, the paint cost, the total cost, and again, we're going to push those out to the labels, and for formatting purposes, we would use our money or our currency format right here. All right, and that basically is what we end up doing for the calculation. Last couple things that we also had, we had a procedure to clear. Again, several ways of doing this. This is the way the book chose to do it. They used a dot clear for the text boxes, and they sent each of the labels to an empty string. All right. So that was, and then again, at the very end, they put focus on the rooms so that once you've cleared it, it's going to put you right up in the first space, so that you can go ahead and enter data or enter information into the number of rooms. Okay, and of course, the last item there is the close, which was again was worth 10 points. So that basically concludes the particular application. Now, couple things that I will mention. Some people had a tendency to declare variables inside of the function. In other words, when they came into a function, they might dim some number and then try to post that to a value and return it. Okay. The problem that you have in doing that is you have to remember scope. If you remember up the top when I talked about declaring the variables, the scope of your variable only works inside of the procedure or the function that you have. So if I came in and declared a variable here to collect my square footage and gave it a value and then tried to return it, the name of that variable isn't known outside of the function. So it doesn't have anything to pass back. Okay. So one of the things that you want to remember is Typically, when you're doing a calculation, you're just going to do a return, and whatever that particular calculation is going to